Hello, everyone. I'm John Butler. I'm the senior telecom analyst in Bloomberg Intelligence, which is Bloomberg's in-house research group. We do equity and industry level research. I cover the North American telecom service providers in the US and Canada, the equipment providers, including Nokia and Ericsson, as well as the US tower companies. Our discussion today is going to focus on how carriers are really making great strides in improving customer service through the increasing use of AI and automation. We're also going to touch on how the pandemic has accelerated digitalization in the telecom industry, and in particular, how carriers have responded by making improvements to the retail stores, the online retail store experience, network operations, and even the workforce. Most of this transformation has been enabled by the implementation of greater automation and AI. So I look forward to talking to the panel about this in detail. But first, I'm just going to touch on a couple of reminders, housekeeping notes, if you will, that if you want to respond to a question, you can raise your hand by hitting the hand icon in Zoom. That'll raise your hand and I can call on you to respond to a question. And I also urge you, if you would, to just keep your answers somewhat brief, as we have a long list of questions to get through and a lot of participants here in the roundtable. On a final note, before we get started, I'd like to introduce Utpal Mangla. Utpal is Vice President and Senior Partner at IBM and the global leader of IBM's Telecom, Media, and Entertainment Industry Center of Competency. And I'd like to invite him to say a few words before we begin, as IBM is sponsoring today's event. And with that, I will turn it over to Utpal.
Thanks, John. Can everybody here be okay, John? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining, and we are delighted to have you here. My name is Utpal, and I lead IBM's innovation competency for telco, media, and entertainment industry. From our industry perspective, we are seeing three key imperatives. Number one, digital transformation. Accelerated customer engagements through personalized experiences and deep insights across all channels, transforming front-end processes to becoming more intelligent and helpful to customers by using AI and analytics. Number two, network evolution. Carriers are moving towards software-defined network, and concepts of NFV and SDN are getting real. These will become the fundamental backbone of the 5G evolution. And once the industry moves in this direction, which they are, companies will be able to implement new use cases and monetize them. And that's where we will see more and more traction in the next few years. And number three, what we are seeing is enterprise transformation through modernization of the back-end legacy applications, consolidation of those, and pivoting to intelligent workflows. As John mentioned, COVID has accelerated the digital transformation by many folds. Many organizations were on a 1 to 3 year roadmap with their digital transformation strategy, but in a post-pandemic scenario, companies have realized the importance of leveraging these digital technologies and have accelerated the pace of transformation on an unprecedented scale. Digital is essential, and enterprises are making massive investments in developing these innovative capabilities to enhance the customer experience. This is the only way, we believe, to transform and succeed in the marketplace. Team, looking forward to our panel discussion and sharing experiences on how you are taking the digital transformation at your respective clients, your successes, pitfalls, and the lessons learned. Welcome again. Thanks for joining, and back to you, John.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. And thank you again to IBM for sponsoring the event today. And I thought we'd kick it off with the key question of the day, if you will, which is, how has the implementation of greater automation and AI enhanced the customer experience, particularly in retail stores and online stores? And what can we expect for the future? And I think, Sean, if you don't mind, I'll start with you on that. I'm a Verizon customer, so I've had a front row seat to some of the changes, but I was hoping you could elaborate a bit on what you're doing there.
Yeah, hey, thanks for the question, John, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be here on this discussion. So, when you talk about, retail, what does it look like today as well as for the future? I've been in the retail space for basically my entire career, so 25 years in the retail space. And one thing I can tell you, the landscape and the retail landscape's probably changed more in probably the last 3 to 4 years than I've probably seen the previous 20 plus years combined. And last year, we'll probably touch on last year, obviously that accelerated a lot of the consumer behaviors and not only lean into some of the changes, but you can't change the customer. One thing I've learned, John, is that you can't change the customer. You should always evolve with the customer. And there's a reason that that customer has a relationship with you. They value certain things. So understanding the customer base and what is important to them is kind of critical in terms of what we do in retail. So in the stores, this is where everything comes together, including technology. Very, very important for the customer. It's one thing to hear about 5G and other cutting edge solutions, but it's different than having a knowledgeable representative in front of you translating that technology. And how does that fit into your lifestyle? How does it make it a little bit easier on you? That's the importance of what the retail store looks like. And so take 5G, for example. Everyone's seen the commercials, and 5G is everywhere around us. But if you don't have a 5G device, it's hard to understand the difference. So we have a number of stores nationwide with 5G antenna where you can actually demonstrate the speed of downloading large files for work, or a 2-hour HD movie that you can download in a matter of seconds, or even in your gaming space. Seeing is kind of believing. So personalized type of experience and engagement is really hard to replicate in those digital only spaces. So in the stores, it's about giving the consumer choice and how she wants to engage with us. We live in an omni world right now. In the stores, it's about giving her the ability to engage the way she wants, whether it's through the My Verizon app, Verizon.com, or all the touchless options that we have in the physical store. So if you take the My Verizon app, you can scan and pay for items through that app. So what a great way to just provide a different way of doing an experience with us. Also, if you don't want to come into the physical store, we're offering assistance with our reps, the most knowledgeable, best in class reps, to be able to do video calls with you, to walk you through any customer service issues, or even to have an opportunity to understand our product and services that much better. So as we look into the future, we'll continue to sort of help the consumer self-navigate and have different experiences. I know AI is going to be a big part of the topic. So AI technology, how do we sort of use that to help personalize some of the experiences that we have in the store? And I'll just end on this question here. The retail store is about the human connection, and that's where we make the difference. It starts with people and it ends with people. So when you look at some of the stats that are out there, 71% of shoppers wants guidance and validation of their purchase still. So which means the retail reps can definitely fit the customer's need in that space. Also, around 1/4 of the shoppers want instant gratification, which means they need their phone today. Obviously, the physical store can also kind of meet that need today. So just released today, last point I want to make, Verizon partnered with Morning Consult as a looking forward survey of Americans and what they expect habits to be post-pandemic. So a couple key things to throw out there. Pre-pandemic, 60% of was mostly shopping in person. Right now, that number's dropped to 37%. A year from now, the anticipation from these customers that were surveyed, 42% will shop in person and online equally. And the last stat I'll throw out is only 16% expect they'll be shopping mostly online a year from now. That's a 6-point increase from the before the pandemic and an 8-point drop from today. So the bottom line is the role of retail will still be a big part of the consumer journey as we go forward.
Got it. Thank you, Sean. And just a reminder to everyone, we're a little tight on time for the list of questions we have. So I urge you again to try and keep it tight if you could. And with that, Cliff, I see your hand up on this one. I'd love to hear the cable perspective on this.
I figured I'd follow Sean since we're a little bit complimentary.
Yeah.
One of the things that Sean mentioned was providing the customer the ability to engage the way they want, how they want, I think was what he used. And one of the things we're doing is using the information available, the data that we have, and the AI tools that are available to enable them to not only engage how they want, but also when they want, and as often as they want. And we want to enable that with less friction. So traditionally they had a call or they have a tech in their house. And the pandemic really accelerated, as you mentioned early, and Uptel mentioned, that really accelerated the desire to have more services, but easier to use. And we find that getting the data in motion and getting it to the point where the customer engages us at the time that they engage us really facilitates a much better customer experience. Whether they're post-sale after they place the order, immediately giving them a detailed order confirmation, giving them regular updates on their tech and where it is in the arrival, equipment status, if it's being shipped to them, activation status, all of that, which they used to have to either wait for the result of or call in to find out about, is now all pushed to them in real time. And we find that that's a real advantage, and we're seeing really good customer feedback on getting that data moving in a real-time manner to the point of engagement and keeping it along the continuum of their conversation with us. Whatever channel they come in or use, that information stays along with them. So we do a much better job using AI in engaging the customer in the way they want with less friction.
I think as I look across industries, I see that we've all gotten conditioned to being able to track our orders and see where everything is in process. So it's going to be an interesting post-pandemic world. I think the demands on companies are going to be a lot higher in terms of keeping customers well informed of where we are in that order process, as you say.
Yeah, we don't expect it to go back to the way it was, certainly.
No,
they have that Amazon expectation of where is everything at the moment.
Yeah, I think the beauty of AI too is it can almost impart the sense of, if I'm framing this right, people want to be heard. They want to know that they're being taken care of if there's a service problem or an order in process. And I think that's where AI can come in and give a little bit of help on that.
Yeah, the beauty is that it actually enables you to give more service opportunities. So
exactly.
They don't have to take time out of their day. They can do it in an iterative fashion. They get serviced faster and better.
Yep. And I see, Robin, you have your hand up as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I know we're talking about retail, and obviously we're in the B2B enterprise, but what we're discussing about keep the customer informed absolutely translates into our world as well. The consumer expects to see an online status of where their order is. In our case, maybe a fault ticket. It's the exact same. So with our online experience, that information has almost got to become consumer-like. So there's a lot to learn and be translated from that retail world that you've described into the B2B.
I'm looking for interesting changes on the enterprise side because in the past, the sales cycle is so much longer than it is on the consumer side, and I can't help but wonder whether greater automation and particularly AI can help to speed that process a bit. With that, I see no more hands up on this one. I'd love to switch to a focus on the cost side. This obviously the first question was on the revenue side, how to get consumers and businesses to transact, but really AI has, and particularly automation has tremendous power to lower costs. And I'm wondering, I'd love to hear from any of you about how it's helped to lower cost and helped with faster go-to-market. And Fabio, I'd love to hear from you on this. I know you had expressed an interest in this one.
Thanks, John. Good morning, everybody. Actually, it's a pleasure to share with you guys our experience. I think there is a huge challenge. It's a mix. How to find new revenues at the same time reduce costs. So we have to do both at the same time. And the more obvious opportunity in our industry, I believe, of course, talking about more the B2C environment, is related with the call centers. So it's impressive how our industry is still dependent on call centers. So we launched an initiative 2 years ago, approximately, apprentices. Telefonica has a huge challenge because we are in 17 countries. So, and we have completely different technology country by country because we are made those country by acquisition, basically. So we decided 2 years ago to develop a single application using one single code for the 17 countries that we have, using artificial intelligence and trying to bring customers from call center to the app environment, which is not easy, but we think there is a must do. In the same time, the applications as WhatsApp and others, they grow a lot, and it's an opportunity, but also is a risk because they are not our own channels, right? So bring customers from call centers to WhatsApp, for example, it's good, but it's not enough. We truly believe that having those customers in our own app, in our own digital channel, from call center to self-service, trying to get to deliver best experience at the same time that we can deliver reduction of costs in our operation is the challenge. So to conclude, right now, we already have the same application, the same code in the 17 countries. Once we develop in UK as a solution for cost reduction, the same solution is available in Peru in the same time. We divide our teams in squads, in developers dedicated to reduce costs and also increase revenues. Of course, they work together, but the way that we see mostly the app, of course, the web also, but the app is a core element for that. We are trying to use artificial intelligence to provide to our customers through the app better experience, better customer engagement, and etc. So that's what we've been doing. We have a lot to do looking forward, but I feel much more confident. I feel that right now we are a tech company and not just a telco company, which is a challenge for us.
You're not alone there. I hear that a lot. Paul, I see your hand up. Love to hear from you on this.
Yeah, I just wanted to extend or echo what Fabio mentioned. I mean, without giving a name of a client, we are seeing, let me just give some data points from a cost reduction standpoint. One of the clients we worked with, typically on an average, they were getting just under $6 per call coming to the call center. And using technologies like AI, automation, obviously much more precise intents to hit the sweet spot, the price went down to approximately 90 cents per call coming to the call center. So just giving some data points over there, a $6 reduction into 90 cents. But then the more important thing, as Fabio mentioned, is deflection of calls. I mean, when you start providing omni-channel digital experience where majority of those questions can get answered, the calls coming into the call center will get reduced. You basically deflect it. That helps in reduction of cost. And if it's a satisfied customer, you're probably also doing some upsell and cross-sell at the same time. So I just wanted to bring that point forward.
Thank you. Actually, those were very interesting data points. I've actually heard higher numbers than $6 per call for some of the carriers. So it can get big. And Cliff, I see you'd love to weigh in on this. So I'd love to hear from you.
Well, since I'm not the sales side, I'm the cost side. Reducing costs is a big part of my focus.
Right.
We've been consciously moving from offshore to onshore to in-house. And part of that continuum of moving the call centers to an in-house model is to be able to use these tools and augment the experience in the control of our own environment. And consistent with what Uptel said, we are seeing dramatic shifts from what I call human factor engagements, the text and the voice agents, to the digital platforms. And that cost reduction is not, dollars, it's multi-dollars to few pennies. But we're not seeing transactions go down. Overall, we're seeing exponential increases in transactions. We now have a 5-to-1 ratio of digital transactions versus voice transactions. And that's not interactions. Transactions we measure by completed. They came in and they did something. They paid a bill, they troubleshoot, they scheduled something, they actually did something, not just a lookup or visiting the sites. And the ability to move that seamlessly from the voice channel, not just deflection in the traditional sense of getting them to hang up, but actually solving their problem or moving them to another channel, sending them links to the web, sending them links to the app, and getting them to re-engage. We're finding that has positive benefits on the cost, but it also has positive benefits on customer satisfaction and then churn. So in the voice side, FCR, first call resolutions, are improving dramatically with the assistance of AI, and channel shifting to the other channels seamlessly, not because we push the customer, but because they actually want to take the path of least resistance and make it easier for them. So it's been very beneficial.
Got it. Thank you. And Sean, I'm going to ask if you could, we need to be brief because we have a few more questions here, but I see your hand up, so I'd love to hear from you.
All right. Thanks, John. Obviously we're looking at it from a cost perspective as well, but the different version of spin there, it's about efficiency and productivity. So one of the challenges, obviously, with the start of the pandemic is the traffic patterns in the store has shifted based on the consumer behavior. So we're using AI to sort of understand how we manage the workforce management piece, both from an efficiency standpoint and how do we accurately predict traffic even better. So it reduces overtime, reduces idle time in the store. So we're looking at those type of things from a hiring as well as a staffing. I think Cliff said it earlier, sort of this just in time, be there when the customers are there. So we're trying to make sure that's as accurate as possible. And the byproduct of that is obviously better service and reduction of some of the other call-in rates in terms of customer service, because the retail store channel in particular has the highest sort of sticking point of what the consumer needs.
No question. It's a high touch business, as they say in retail. So it begs the question, we're going to shift gears here a tiny bit. I'm wondering, as you look across your organization, for all of you, what are some of the skills needed in the organization to create an AI-driven culture? I think every company, as they evolve, begins to look at what they have and what they need. And Corinne, I was hoping we could hear from you on this. We haven't. I know you had expressed an interest here, so please.
Yes, sure. So first of all, good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to join you from France. So Orange is present in more than 25 countries. So we have similar challenges in terms of how do we interact with all of operation, because we deal with different type of customers, obviously. So when it comes to skill set, well, first of all, I'd just like to, very, very quickly, as every telco in the world, we are focused in three main programs when it comes to AI. The first is obviously, how data and AI can bring, the next best thing for our network, because at the end of the day, it's all about connectivity, isn't it? Second is customer experience. And the third is obviously operational efficiency when we service our customer. So that said, when obviously looking at your question and answering on these, we believe that there is a sense of urgency at Orange, but probably in other industries and also other telcos, to really engage more our staff in upskilling and developing AI skill. So we've decided to accelerate. It's been now a journey, and we're still on that journey. Our philosophy is that AI will impact all the different functions and competencies in the company. And my job is to I would say, design the product and services for tomorrow, because I work for innovation, servicing all of our opcos. So I strongly believe that there's been a gap between what we could do and what we're now doing, which has been solved for some of it, but there is still a huge gap. So let me maybe focus a bit more on all of these. So first of all, there's obviously a huge improvement that we can do, that we are doing in terms of how we bring technical skills, data scientists, data engineers, we bring them on board. We've hired most in the last couple of years that we've been having, in the last 10 years on those skill sets. We as a telco and everywhere in the world, centralized, but also in different parts and in different business units. So that's obviously number one, focused on cybersecurity, IT, data, because this is just a new thing. I've been working in this industry for more than 20 years, and I can tell you that the skill sets are not the same than it used to be 20 years ago when we had our engineers just thinking about, BSS and as you name it. So, but secondly, maybe focusing on what I know best, which is product development. I would just like to highlight this, that I have a profound belief that AI and machine learning will make solid contribution when it comes to accelerating product development. And yes, we don't have a lot of products, obviously. We are telco, so we have gateways, we have, network, we have some applications, the equivalent of your digital application you've discussed, Fabio. So we have a few. So when you look at three phases, product development, it's about concept, it's about designing the product or the service, and it's about testing it, prototyping it before we go into the market. So when you look at this, chain, I strongly believe, and we've experienced this, that you can reduce a lot of the test and learn phase, but also the design phase. And obviously, this is all about new skill sets, because you're asking your people, my own people, I'm asking them not to, to spend time to thinking about which functions within the product will get to which segment of the market, because now you can automatize a lot all of this. You can use software that can actually define for you, how you can optimize the design of your app depending on the segment of the market you serve. And we serve different markets, because we serve Middle East, Africa, we serve France, we serve, Spain. So they are all different. So
Right.
all in all, you are asking your people to kind of change the way that they were thinking about, their job. And so you have to massively, upskill them, making sure that they can use the latest software, because then you have to free their creativity by relying on software. And I think what is really fundamental here is that right now you can concept testing 100 prototypes at the same time. And then all of a sudden you can design what is really best for your customer, almost not real time, but almost in real time. And so for me, this is a massive, upskilling of my people, of all people at Orange, is really understanding that the classic product development guy is just, belong to the past. And the designer, the classical designer, same, it belongs to the past. And obviously it's not easy, because those people have been used to do things the way they've been doing things before. And so it's a full journey. And obviously the second skill set, and then I'll stop, John,
Okay.
is about collaboration, because not every single person can absolutely, absorb all of this. So then he will have to work with, you name it, data scientists, data engineers, because he cannot, he will not be able to do everything on its own. And so all of a sudden, it's not, the one guy doing the job, is the one guy plus the engineer, plus the scientist, all in one, all together. And then it's all about, emotional intelligence, soft skill, letting it go a lot.
Right.
And this is our journey at Orange. So I strongly believe that we will be better at servicing our customer with the use of AI, not only for improving our product, because obviously, like you said, you can use AI to have a better product within the product, but also using AI to just develop services and develop the product in the way you're doing it, which I think is something that maybe we telco, we've been maybe a bit, observing rather than doing over the last 5 years. I mean, I've worked in different companies, and that's my conclusion.
Okay.
All in all.
Thank you so much. And, Tony, I don't mean to call on you out of the blue, but I cover TELUS, and I'd love to hear Darren Entwistle talk a lot about how, there's a digitalization going on at quite a pace. And he's been able to take a lot of cost out of the customer service organization, and yet customer service remains a really key focus at TELUS. So I don't mean to put you on the spot. If and only if you're comfortable talking about it, I'd love to hear some thoughts.
Sure, John. Good morning, everybody. From a TELUS perspective, and it's part of the strategy we've had for the last 20 years now, is being very customer centric and putting customers first in everything we do. And the digitization is really an accelerant of how we can enable an easier, less effort journey for our customers. The pandemic really put on steroids our transformation initiative, the focus we've been having, where digitization has a role to play in the customer journey. And we saw in the early phases of last year that we shifted to more digital transactions than before, in terms of the overall majority of transactions became more digital. And that we see as a trend that will continue. I agree with some earlier comments that some retail behavior will slip back, but we do think fundamentally the customer experience and the customer desire to do business with us will change, and we want to enable that. And part of the thrust of our thinking around digitization is really about radical simplification. Simplification makes it easier for us to train our agents and our field technicians, and it makes it easier for the customer to interpret the offering and to take those or acquire those customer services digitally. So first and foremost, within TELUS, it's digital by design is looking for radical simplification, minimizing the steps in any given process, and then looking at how you can enable and facilitate an easy customer experience through that. We really would like to go much more digital, but we also want to make sure that we put a humanized face to our digital experience, so it's not a cold 2 clicks and that's the experience. We want to make sure that where customers need it, and certain segments will have longer need for the human support process than maybe the younger demographic. So we're kind of tailoring the business and tailoring our resources to fit where we're seeing the demand and customer behavior change.
Tony, you bring up a good point, which is all of you are serving a very broad demographic, and there's the level of comfort with technology can really hit a broad range. And Cliff and Chad, I see both your hands up. Cliff, we'll start with you, but I'd love to have you weave in some thoughts about how customers have responded to increased automation. I imagine that varies by that demographic spectrum I was just talking about. So please let me hear some thoughts here on the cable side.
Well, anybody that has kids or grandkids or anybody they know under 40 probably knows that they don't want to call anybody about anything ever. So that alone is changing the demographics. But a couple of things. One of the skill sets that Karen didn't mention, or maybe she did, was UX, the user experience. We've actually invested heavily in building a UX team to look at the way in which the customers are using our products and tools and the way the agents are using them, and trying to bring those together. Less differentiation between what the agent can do and what the customer can do, to move it downstream to give them more opportunities. Less and less that they have to call the agent, only if they want to do they. So we're working in that area. And then Tony said simplification. That's kind of the way you have to do it. You can't build your servicing to expect that an agent that you train for 7 weeks is going to use it. You have to build it so that the customer can do it intuitively. So that UX team really focuses on, is it intuitive enough so that your grandmother could do it as well as the kids could do it? And then in concert with that, we really have a concept of service as a product. And what that really means to us is building that service right into the product, not building the product and then handing it off to the service organization and say, okay, we're going to launch this. You guys go figure out how we're going to provide service for it. We're actually building the service, the self-service aspects right into the product itself. So you don't even have to leave that ecosystem. You don't have to go to another tool. You don't have to go to the website. You don't have to call. It's right in the product itself. And I think doing it that way, the adoption is organic and intuitive. You have less pushback on the customer. Granted, the pandemic was a huge incentive for people to learn how to be self-sufficient. But we've been surprised by the diversity of the demographic that has embraced that. And you hear it when they call saying, why can't I do it myself? And you never heard that before. It used to be the other way around. Years ago, it was, why do I have to do it? Why? I want a tech. I don't care. Just send me a tech. And now you hear the conversations around, I don't want a tech. Tell me how I can do it myself. And that change isn't going back. You're going to have some of them that are going to maintain that I want to talk to somebody. But more and more, the customer has an expectation of, why can't I do it myself? And that's to our benefit.
That is to your benefit, because what I find is once people gain experience fixing a common problem, the calls decrease, right? They know what to do and how to fix it.
Right.
And I love that concept of actually building it into the product itself. So
we're happy to have them call. We want to engage with them however they want. So there's zero effort to reduce call volume artificially. We're going to reduce call volume by giving an option that they prefer more than calling is a good model. It's better for the customer. It's easier for them to get what they want, faster for them to get what they want, and the benefits inure to us.
Right. I see Chet is dying to say something here. So Chet, I'll go to you. And then Corinne, I see you queued up. You'll be next after Chet.
Thanks, John. I just wanted to also highlight some of the points that Tony, Corinne, and Cliff made as well. I think we must make sure that we use the awful pandemic to continue to accelerate what has happened. I initially saw a little bit of a pause while everybody looked around and sort of understood what was going on, got over the initial panic, and then the digital transformation and the use of AI and automation has really, really increased, whether it be for serving our customers or indeed taking new propositions to market, whether you're helping sort of vaccine manufacturers get on and produce and manage their logistics or whatever. Technology has proven to help accelerate. And, I think we would have been in a much worse situation if it hadn't been for the technology that many of us are involved in this community. And just a couple of examples. The first one being, we're used to managing mixed estates of networks and devices and accesses, whether they be fixed, mobile or radio or whatever, in different terrains and geographies. But the monitoring, the diagnostic and the self-healing of that is now BAU. That's what we all do now. that has been a change that's been really, really powerful. Saves us cost and gets customers answers a lot quicker. Similar sort of thing in contact centers, and we talked about some examples earlier. Many of these customers now want a single journey, which is automated, but gives them the assurance that they can fall back into an agent should they want to, via voice or via chat, or even via WhatsApp or social media. So those sorts of things have been really important. And all of this is underpinned by security, and we mustn't underestimate that. As millions of people across the globe started to homework, a bit like many of us are doing now on this call, security, taking payments, doing stuff, access to data, all that stuff needs really good, well-orchestrated security solutions, which provide insight and guidance to the organization about what are your employees actually doing with your customers' data, how are you safeguarding that, etc. So I think there's been much acceleration, and it's got to continue, and we owe it to make sure it continues even more to improve that customer experience going forward, John.
I can guarantee you it will, having covered telecom for a couple of decades now. It always goes forward. And Karine, your hand's been up for a while. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, well, just a couple of thoughts. Well, absolutely, I didn't talk about UX, but I mean, when I said design, obviously UX has been here, up front in terms of how you design a product. And what I just wanted to highlight is that before you kind of design it manually, and now with AI, there are lots of tools that help you design in a faster, more efficient, and better way for your customer. That said, I just wanted to highlight one thing. Obviously, digital has raised the bar for our customer, but now I think there is a common challenge in many industries, including in telecommunication industries, that every app looks the same. Like when you check in online, you take any airline, you are here in France, you're here in Australia, you're everywhere. It's kind of, with the same, rolling menu, the same thing. And it's good because it brings simplicity, obviously, to the customer, and people expect that.
Right.
But then I think there will be a brand differentiation, coming to us very soon about how you leverage this simplicity and the use of digital and application, but still coming a long way in terms of how you brand differentiates itself. And I think this is something I just wanted to highlight because we're working on it. Obviously, we at Orange. And I think it's just, I just wanted to bring that to light because after all, we are in a competitive market and it's all great, to serve a customer with no human interaction, with all digital, asking them to be in control on everything. But if everything looks the same, then we've left is just the network, which I don't think will be enough in most of the markets we serve. So that was my comment.
I agree. It's a good comment, a good insight indeed. And then Paul, did you want to, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to re-emphasize for impact the comment that Cliff and Chad just mentioned. I mean, eventually the pandemic will go away, but the digital acceleration is here to stay. It's not going away. And I think it's going to happen on two fronts, vertical acceleration and horizontal. And what I mean by that is on the horizontal scale, basically, if you've already done the app, you need to move over to the voiceover. Once you move over to the voiceover, you create the next level of automation and AI on the digital side. And when I say vertical, if you're doing it in a certain line of business, you take it to the other lines of businesses. I mean, for example, if you have started it on the digital experience, you take it to the field service, you do it on the network side, etc., etc. So this is here to stay, and it's all about scaling now.
I'd love to build on some of the thoughts we just heard to ask the following question, and I can tell you it's almost a burning question in the analyst community, which is, where are we in this process of implementing AI and greater automation, not just in the consumer organization, but throughout your organizations? And I guess as part of that, what are some of the unforeseen challenges you've experienced as you've rolled it out? Chad, I see your hand up on this one, so we'll start with you and some thoughts there.
Yeah, I sort of mentioned a few moments ago that we all have started an acceleration. but there's still some frustrations in place, to be honest. There's too many vendors with proprietary kit and proprietary software and proprietary other systems and IT, which just do not string together well. And it's difficult automating it all and providing AI insight all the way across the value chain. So there's much more to be done at that level for us all as an industry to really, really accelerate the use of digitization and the AI much more. And also, we've got to make sure that AI that we're programming doesn't have a bias. And at the moment, we're still in the early stages of that, and we've got to make sure that the AI is actually being programmed by a diverse community of people, so it's not automatically naturally biased. And that's really, really important going forward. So there's little things like that that will really help us accelerate this journey a lot more. And we've all, as a community and an industry, got to invest in those to make sure we can.
Yeah, it's funny how so many issues crop up in business that with the implementation of a new technology or a new process that are unforeseen in the beginning. So that was that comment on bias was interesting to me. And Fabio, I see your hand up as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
John, I'm not gonna take the risk to answer your question, but I think there is a lot of things to do. The first challenge for me is how could we organize better our data and how to create a better middleware where we can put all those data together and move from a BI perspective to a artificial intelligence perspective, which is much more real time. And we don't have that. So for me, this is the first challenge: how to organize the data in this perspective. And the second one, which could be in parallel, is how to find concrete use cases that allow us to keep investing on this system, on the technology, for new revenues or to reduce costs. So, for example, we launched a few months ago an initiative oriented to renew to help our customers to renew their devices using artificial intelligence. I think that for me was a great example of how to prove to our CFO that makes a lot of sense keep investing on it, because the conversion rate was much better than in the past. So I think that organize the data and find very concrete use cases will be helpful to move forward.
Thank you. And Cliff, I see your hand was up as well. You're next in line. Any thoughts on this?
It's my opinion. I think we're pretty early in the maturity curve for what this technology could do. Other industries are obviously further advanced, but for us, I think we're still in the early stages. Material impacts are happening, and I think those will accelerate and they'll be transformational, but I think we're still in the early parts of it. One of the issues is the challenges, or that data in motion concept that was talked about, is our systems were fundamentally built differently. They weren't built for this speed of change that we'll need to keep up with the AI aspects of it. So you have to transform your systems. And you can mitigate that to some extent by starting to build it inherently into your products as you sell them. And I think that'll help as well.
Got it. And Tony, I'm just curious. I know TELUS was in the call center business and still is. Do you have, again, I don't mean to pick on you out of the blue, but I'd be curious to see if you have any thoughts there, given the involvement in call centers.
Yeah, well, we had a couple of things that tell us when the outsourcing or offshoring was a big feature, and really was just a labor arbitrage. We set up an international function, TELUS International, which did BPO for other companies and for us ourselves, so we could effectively leverage the cost efficiency to reinvest on our capabilities onshore. And we found, there's some areas where that works really well, and other areas where it creates a friction with customers or a friction with your regulator, and you have to be very conscious and mindful of how you utilize that. But what we've seen is that it's of serving other customers, and a lot of big global brands logos are supported by our TI team, gave us a lot of insight into different dynamics of satisfaction drivers and efficiency drivers that were being used that we could then turn back on ourselves to say, are we doing this? Should we be doing more of that? Leveraging AI for our agents and really giving them more information so that it's easier for them to support multiple products. The training curve is shorter. The simplification we've done with the products enhances the short training curve, has allowed us to drive an efficiency. And long term, we would see that we would see a natural attrition of the call center agent base as we leverage AI more, and some of those customer journeys stay wholly digital. But what we look at is then how do we upskill and retrain our agents? They were once just care agents, now they're advocates for our services, and they can sell effectively. So in low demand, they can outbound and sell, or they can be presented by AI the next best customer that matches their skill sets and capabilities. Being the way we manage our agent base and the way we manage the call traffic is kind of bringing these two things together and changing the dynamic. And then finally, our business is all about growth and finding new opportunities of growth and adjacencies to our technology. So we're moving into the health sector and health information and leveraging data and IP to improve the primary healthcare ecosystem is a very simple kind of step, leveraging all the networks and technologies we have and the AI. And also now into ag tech, where we're seeing that 5G networks and broadband infrastructure is going to transform the end-to-end seed to plate journey of food manufacture and logistics. So we're constantly looking, as we harvest efficiencies in our legacy business, how do we grow into a new area and repurpose our skills, our people, and our tool sets to find new avenues of growth. So it's kind of an interesting journey. Our contact center environment is rapidly changing. The agents are being super skilled, if you will, with tools that are making it easier for them to be proficient. So I don't see the need going away fully, as other panelists have said already. But I do see the usage and the utilization of our agents changing and their skill sets evolving as well. So it's a complex journey, but it's one that I think is exciting and has got a long way to run yet.
Yeah, great thoughts. Thank you for those. And Robin, I know you have an interest in sharing your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I think forefront of mind with us is not to be seduced by the technology. And I guess it goes back to some of the things Chet was saying, with the legacy systems. But I'm also looking at AI, not just to solve problems, but also to tell me what the problem is. Last year, we looked at tens of thousands of customer commentary that came back through our NPS. And I think, Tony, you said it. The main feedback from our customers was make it easier to work with you and make it effortless. So we said, right, okay, NPS is cool. I mean, we got industry leading. We were at 69 NPS last year, but we changed to NES, Net Easy Score. So actually the technology is not just helping us solve, it's actually telling us what customers want, which I think is really cool.
Great. Thank you. And Utpal?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment to what Chet mentioned, because I echo his frustration with so many vendors and potentially locked in technology. I think the future is open architecture, open technology, because no one vendor will be able to solve all the problems. So you have to be very selective in making your critical decisions, because the future is all about platforms, ecosystems, and an open architecture and framework.
And I'll end with a relatively easy question. So we're coming up on the 5-minute mark or less here. So I'll call it the lightning round, if you will. But this question has come up as an analyst, which is how, as an organization, do you measure your progress on this front? What are some of the KPIs you use to measure how you're doing in customer engagement? And what are the ones you use to quantify progress on the cost side? Karine, I see your hand up. Thank you.
Well, I think that one is a kind of obviously you just said, NPS versus Net Easy Score. That's the first time I'm hearing, and it's a great idea. So we constantly look at NPS, episode NPS, strategic NPS, and I think that the key measurements, because it's pretty, raising the bar in terms of what our customer expects. So I know it's probably not a one-off or not something that you don't do, but I think it's a pretty good measurement. And I've been, working, in and out with NPS for a long number of years. And I think that's really, for me, that's the best KPI in terms of how do we interact and what is your customer telling you, as long as you can obviously, have the right tool to get to the drivers of a wrong NPS or a bad NPS. And then what you can look at it is episode by episode, and I can also correlate or uncorrelate strategic NPS and obviously episode NPS, because you can have a great episode NPS on every episode and have a bad strategic NPS. So you have to have a good team that can use great software to be able to go around that kind of question, but it can be solved.
Got it. Thank you. Sean, we're down to just a couple of minutes here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, obviously, customer service piece is a big measure in terms of what our success looks like. But also, when you talk about AI, the heart of what AI is supposed to do is drive productivity and efficiency for us. So, obviously, those metrics are very, very near and dear to our heart. The personalized, I know AI will help personalization for each and every customer. So, I think the quality of sale, not only from a service the score perspective, but also quality of sales, those are kind of the key metrics that will really help sort of navigate and guide as we move through this journey.
Got it. And Chet, just briefly, I see your hand up.
Yes, I was going to say repeat business, to be honest, because the progress we're making is good, but it'll only be complete and you can only measure it if customers say, hey, that was a really good experience. Right. I'll have some more of that, please.
Very true. Tony, I see your hand up.
I think the Net Promoter Scores are a good first line of the assessing, but we look at churn and the rate customers leave us. And we like to have in our market the lowest churn relative to our competition, because that to us is a signal that we're getting customers, keeping them happy, and they're staying longer. And then when we look at the digitization, and it's how is their experience? What is the frequency of usage of an app? Are they engaged with the app and they come back because there's information, there's offers, and there's help that they need? And if you lose that frequency of engagement, then the app sits on the iPad or the phone and doesn't get used, and you're losing the engagement opportunity with the customer. So there's a lot of focus around making sure that there's a frequency of visitation to the app and usage of the app, because it's satisfying need and demand in a way that customers find useful. And there's a fine line there of getting that balance right. But those are kind of some of the areas that we're focused on.
Got it. Thank you, Tony. And Utpal, do you have any closing thoughts here?
I think everybody said NPS is the key, but I think what Sean mentioned, you go one level down. When you go one level down, you have to look at specific KPIs for specific use cases, if you will, right? So for example, if there is a use case for agent assist, you got to measure it at that level. As Tony mentioned, if there's another one at a different level, you got to look at it. If there's a use case on the network side, you got to measure it at that level. And those are all for productivity, cost reduction, as well as monetization, actually.
Got it. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up. We've got like 30 seconds remaining. So I'm going to take that time to just thank you all. These were wonderful thoughts. I really enjoy the topic. And I love the insights from everyone. We're going to follow up with some event highlights shortly. And also a special thanks again to the sponsor of the event, IBM. With that, thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.